my mother-in-law stood up at her own birthday dinner and announced to the entire table that my husband would be covering the bill. All $4,300 of it. I felt something in my chest go very, very quiet. Not the panic kind of quiet. Not the kind where you scramble for excuses or feel your face go hot. The kind of quiet that only comes when you've been waiting a long time for exactly this moment. My name is Tatum. I've been married to my husband for 5 years. And for 5 years, I watched his mother, a woman who introduced herself to me at our engagement party as the most important woman in his life. Just so we're clear, treat our joint bank account like her personal emergency fund. Let me be honest with you, I didn't walk into this marriage blind. I knew she was demanding. I knew she had opinions about everything from how I loaded the dishwasher to what shoes I wore to church. I thought that was just her personality. I thought I could handle it. I thought eventually she would see that I loved her son, and that would be enough. It wasn't enough. The first time she used our credit card without asking, my husband said it was a misunderstanding. She had accidentally grabbed the wrong card from his wallet, he said. She felt terrible, he said. It was only $312, he said, for a spa day she had been looking forward to. I said okay. The second time, it was a plane ticket. She wanted to visit her college roommate in Scottsdale and flights had gone up last minute. My husband said she would pay us back by Christmas. She did not pay us back by Christmas. By year 3 there was no pretense anymore. She would call my husband. He would transfer money and the explanation I received, if I received one at all, was always some variation of, "She's my mother. You don't say no to family." I watched $18,000 leave our accounts over 4 years. I counted. I have a spreadsheet. I am the kind of person who keeps a spreadsheet because I knew, even in year 1, that someday I was going to need receipts. What broke me wasn't the money, though. It was the dinner 2 months before her birthday. We were at Sunday lunch at her house, her, my husband, his sister, his sister's husband, and me, and she looked across the table and said completely casually, the way you'd comment on the weather, Tatum, "I'd been meaning to ask you. Your grandmother passed last spring, didn't she? Did she leave you anything?" The table went silent. I set down my fork. "A little," I said. She nodded like she was filing that information away somewhere useful. That night I sat in our kitchen at 11 o'clock and I thought about the inheritance my grandmother had left me. $60,000. Tucked in a separate account that only I knew about, that was only in my name, that I had never mentioned to my husband or his family because some quiet instinct had told me not to. I thought about how my mother-in-law had just asked about it at the dinner table like she was checking an item off a list, and I made a decision, not out of anger. Anger would have made me sloppy. I made it out of something colder and more deliberate than anger. I made it the way you'd plan a route before a long drive, methodically, patiently, because you want to arrive in one piece. I called my attorney the following Monday, not a family attorney. My own that I'd found myself, that my husband didn't know I had because 6 months earlier I had started quietly preparing for a future that might not include the arrangement I was currently living in. I told her everything. She told me what I needed to do, and I did it, one step at a time, over the next 8 weeks. I opened my own checking account. I had my direct deposit rerouted. I removed my name from the joint savings account. Or rather, I emptied it into my personal account and then removed my name, which is perfectly legal when the account is in both names, which I also knew because I had asked my attorney twice just to be sure. I was methodical. I was quiet. I went to my husband's mother's birthday dinner in a blue dress and heels, and I smiled at everyone and asked his aunt how her garden was doing, and I waited. The restaurant she had chosen was called Harlow and Reed, the kind of place with cloth napkins and a sommelier and a prix-fixe menu that starts at $80 a head. She had made the reservation herself for 12 people and told my husband we were celebrating her 62nd birthday in the style she deserved. He had smiled and said, of course. I had smiled and said nothing. We were on the second course when she raised her wine glass and tapped it with her knife, and the table went quiet, and she looked at my husband with the expression she reserved for moments when she wanted an audience. "I just want to say," she began, "that I am so grateful for my wonderful son who works so hard and who has always taken care of me." She paused to dab the corner of her eye with her napkin. "And tonight, because he is generous and because that is simply the kind of man I raised, he's going to take care of all of us." She gestured broadly at the table. "At all 12 place settings. at the 3 bottles of wine that had already been opened. My husband sat up straighter. He looked proud. He looked like a man who had just been handed a crown in front of witnesses. He reached over and picked up my purse. Not his jacket pocket, not his own bag. My purse, which was sitting on the back of my chair, because for 5 years whenever we went somewhere nice, he would say, "You always carry the nicer card, babe," and I would hand it to him. And that had become, without either of us formally agreeing to it, just the way things worked. He unzipped it. He reached inside. He pulled out my wallet and opened it. His mother was watching him with barely contained delight. His sister was watching with a small smile that said she had known this was coming. His sister's husband was studying the ceiling. He found the card. He held it up like it was nothing, like it was just a thing you do, like picking up a check at a diner, and he handed it to the server. I took a sip of my water. The server was gone for maybe 90 seconds. She came back with the card in her hand and an apologetic expression that she was working very hard to keep neutral. "I'm so sorry," she said quietly, leaning toward my husband. "It's not going through." He blinked. "Try it again." "I did, sir." "Twice." He took the card back and stared at it like it had malfunctioned. Like if he looked at it long enough it would explain itself to him. His mother's smile tightened by one fraction. "Is there a problem?" "No," he said immediately. "No, just technical issue. 1 second." He looked at Mikkel. "Issue. 1 second." He looked at me. "Do you have the other one?" "Which other one?" "The backup. The one you keep behind your license." I looked at him the way you look at someone when they've just said something that doesn't quite track. "I don't have a backup." He stared at me. His mother set down her wine glass. "What do you mean you don't have a backup?" she said. Not quietly. She had a voice that carried when she wanted it to, and right now she wanted it to. "I mean, I don't have another card," I said. "That's impossible," she said. "You always have another card. You always have everything. And I want to tell you, I want to be very honest about this, that sitting there in that moment, with 12 people watching and the sommelier hovering near the dessert cart and the candle on the breadbasket flickering, I did not feel nervous. I did not feel guilty. I felt the way you feel when you've studied for a test for a very long time, and you finally get to sit down and take it. "Try yours," I said to my husband. "What?" "Your card. Try yours." He was quiet for a second. "Then I don't have the limit for this. How much is the bill?" He looked at the server. She told him the number, 4,300 and change, and I watched him do the math in his head and come up short. His mother inhaled through her nose. "This is embarrassing," she said. "This is genuinely embarrassing. Tatum, whatever is happening with your account, you need to fix it right now. We have people at this table." "I know we do." "Then fix it." "I can't fix it," I said. "The account is closed." The table went so still I could hear the table next to us laughing at something. "Closed," my husband repeated. "Yes." "What do you mean closed it? Who closed it?" "I did." His mother made a sound that wasn't quite a word. His sister put down her fork. "You closed our account," my husband said slowly, like he was translating from a language he didn't speak well. "I closed my account," I said. "The joint one, technically, yes. But the money in it was mine, my direct deposit for the last 8 months, which I've been documenting, because when I talked to my attorney she said that would matter, and that was the word that changed the temperature of the room. Attorney. My husband's face did something complicated. His mother's face did something simpler. It went from indignant to calculating so fast I almost missed the transition. "You have an attorney," she said. "I do." "Since when?" "Since I realized that $18,000 had left our accounts in 4 years, and the explanation I kept getting was that you needed it." Her mouth opened. "That is family money," she said. "That is, your husband chose to support his family, which is what families do, which is something you apparently do not understand because you have never—" "I have a record," I said, "of every transfer, every date, every amount. My attorney has a copy." "Why would your attorney need a copy of family financial decisions?" I looked at her. Just looked at her for a moment, because I wanted her to actually hear the next thing I said. "Because I'm filing for legal separation on Monday," I said, "and in the state of Texas, documentation of financial transfers during the marriage is relevant to the asset division process." She said it would help. The table was a held breath. My husband said my name, just my name, in a voice I hadn't heard from him before. Not angry, not defensive, just genuinely lost. like a man who had been walking confidently in one direction and had just realized the road had ended. Tatum. I know, I said quietly. I know this isn't how you wanted tonight to go. You can't. He stopped, started again. We can talk about this. Whatever this is, we can talk about it. We can, I said. On Monday, with our respective attorneys like adults, his mother found her voice again. She was good at that. You selfish little... I would be really careful, I said, about what you say next, because my attorney also told me that anything said in front of witnesses can be documented. She closed her mouth. His sister reached over and put a hand on their mother's arm. Her husband was looking very intently at his water glass. The server had taken several steps back and was now standing near the bread station, clearly trying to be invisible. The bill, my husband said. His voice had gone flat. We still need to cover the bill. You do? I agreed. I told you, I don't have the... I know. I picked up my purse and stood up. That's going to be a problem you three will need to figure out together. His mother stood up too. You cannot leave. You cannot just leave a $4,000 bill at a restaurant and walk out like, the bill is not mine, I said. The reservation was made in your name. The table is in your name. I came as a guest. And I'm leaving as one. I looked at my husband one more time. I want to be honest, it hurt. It still hurt. 5 years is not nothing, and he wasn't a monster, just a man who had never once chosen me over the path of least resistance, and I had spent 4 years waiting for that to change. It hadn't changed. I really did love you, I said. I want you to know that. He didn't say anything. He looked like he was trying to find words and coming up empty. I nodded. I picked up my jacket from the back of my chair. And I walked through that restaurant, past the sommelier, past the table of women celebrating a bachelorette party, past the host stand where a teenager in a black vest looked at me with wide eyes, and I pushed open the door and stepped out into the night air. It was cool. It smelled like rain that had already passed through. I stood on the sidewalk for a moment and I did not cry, which surprised me. I thought I would cry. I had cried plenty in the 4 years leading up to this. Quietly, mostly, in the car or in the shower where no one could see. But standing there on that sidewalk, I felt something that was not sadness. I called my attorney. She picked up on the second ring. It's done, I said. How do you feel? I thought about it. The cool air, the smell of rain, the way my husband's face had looked when I said the word Monday. Like myself, I said. For the first time in a long time. She told me she'd have everything ready. I thanked her and hung up. I didn't check my phone for the rest of the night. I drove to my friend's apartment. I had already moved the things that mattered over the course of 3 Saturday mornings, while my husband played golf. And she opened the door with a glass of wine in each hand, and didn't ask me any questions. We sat on her balcony and watched the city, and she just let me be quiet, which was the only thing I needed. My mother-in-law called 11 times between 9 p.m. and midnight. My husband called 4 times and then stopped. His sister texted once, "I hope you're proud of yourself." I looked at that message for a long time. I thought about what to say. I thought about 5 years of holiday dinners where I brought the dish no one ate and laughed at jokes made at my expense, and transferred money, and transferred money, and transferred money. I put my phone face down on the side table. There are things I could tell you about the weeks that followed, the mediation, the paperwork, my attorney's very specific face when she saw my spreadsheet for the first time. You kept 5 years of records. She said and I said yes, and she said you are going to be fine. There's a version of this story where I detail every legal turn and every asset and every moment my mother-in-law tried to insert herself into proceedings she was not party to. But here's what actually mattered. The Monday appointment happened. The documentation held up. The $18,000 was categorized exactly the way my attorney said it would be. The inherited money, the $60,000 from my grandmother in my own account untouched, was ruled separate property and never touched. My mother-in-law did not get to weigh in on any of it, which I suspect was the hardest part for her. My husband, to his credit, did not fight me. I think he understood, somewhere underneath the shock and the wounded pride, that he had made a series of choices and that choices have weight. We divided things without screaming. We were not friends at the end of it, but we were not enemies either, and I count that as a small grace. I have a 1-bedroom apartment now. It is small and it is mine, and no one transfers money out of my accounts without my knowing. My grandmother's picture is on the bookshelf. I have a spreadsheet for my budget and another one for my savings, and neither of them has a column for someone else's emergencies. I think about her sometimes. My mother-in-law. And the way she looked at that birthday dinner table when she understood that the evening was not going to go the way she had planned it. I don't feel triumphant about it. I don't feel angry. I feel something closer to clarity. She taught me something. Actually, in all those years, she taught me that the people who say it's just family, the loudest are usually ones who benefit most from you believing it. She taught me that quiet does not mean content. She taught me that a spreadsheet is a form of self-respect. And she taught me that the most dangerous thing a woman can be, to people who have decided she exists to accommodate them, is prepared. I was prepared. And that restaurant bill, all $4,300 of it, was not mine to pay.